Howdy, howdy, y'all. Henry here, thanking you for joining us for another edition of Wisecrack Live this Thursday, July 6th. Thanks for joining us as we head towards unsure futures. We'll be with you in just a moment. We're going to have a lot of fun today.
Hey, what's up, free thinkers? It's Wisecrack Live. It's July 6th. It's Michael Burns and producer Henry. I'm liking this because we're starting on time, so it means there's going to be less of those comments that are like, "Oh, they started 7 minutes in. I hate that they do this." Yada yada yada. But I'm excited everyone's here. So, what's up, Jacobo Pina? It's his first time here. That's amazing. Ashley B is on the chat yet. What's up, Penny and Cheyenne and Ryan and CDP and John and Lexa and Peter and Penny and Christopher Maverick, PhD and unknown number and Callie Zabrenko. Everyone is here. I'm so glad to see you all. Well, this is going to be the last Wisecrack Live for a bit. So we don't know exactly when we'll be coming back, but the last one for a little bit. So I'm excited to have everyone here today. As Penny notes, if you're here, you're on time. And Dominic says, only nerds complain when class doesn't start on time. I'll say this. Let's start by complaining about you all. Not you all. But every week there's like comments on the VOD of the stream that are like, there should be dedicated chapter titles and timestamps and all this. And I just want to be like, guys, how many hey, what's up, Ben? First time. Wow. How much time do you think we have to work on this? How many people do you think work here? You know what I mean? We can only do so much. So I appreciate those of you who accept and understand that we can only do so much. Let's see. Due to Bides is running slightly low due to donating blood, but you donate blood. Which makes you a good person.
Yeah.
Funny sometimes likes this from the Danish time zone. Guys, we're primarily a stream for the Danes. The rest of you, if you happen to enjoy this, that's fine. But we're here for the Danes. So for all the Danes, I say hi and hi. Did you know this, Henry, that in this, one of our Danish people might correct me here, but you know that in Denmark, if you're saying like hi to someone, you say hi. And if you say bye, you say hi.
Did not know that.
It's fun. It's a fun one. Chris Maverick says, dedicated chapter titles, 187 of them since we can't stay on topic for more than 45 seconds. Now, I'm going to eat some blueberries during the stream today for the antioxidants and other stuff. So, get used to that. Lexa says they're only here for the polyamorous bisexual lighting and my desperate attempts at flirting and communism. There we go. Norway is not Denmark, but we're the same time zone. There you go. I hear that Norwegians and Danes like to make fun of each other. When I was in a summer, actually, B is watching this at midnight. When I was in this like summer Danish intensive, the teacher from Denmark showed us these like comedy sketches of Norwegians making fun of Danes. Where Ashley B's watching at midnight. Henry, where is midnight right now in the world? Do you know off the top of your head? Where would be midnight?
That's about 12 hours ahead of where I am, which is Central Texas. So somewhere in Central Europe, I'm imagining.
Because I know like you're like France and Germany are 9 hours ahead of me, which would put them at 8 p.m. Oh yeah, we're talking like pretty far east, maybe even Asia. We're figuring it out, guys. We're figuring it out. Like the streams, just this one. Don't like other streams. I'm going to put my finger near this camera. Oh, Dirkster, thank you so much. Dirkster, really appreciate it. It means a lot. I will pass that on to the child. I'll put it in her piggy bank. And so it's 8 p.m. in Central Europe. Yeah, so we're talking like Asia or something like that. we got a lot to get into today. So much to get into. As you see from the thumbnail, we're going to talk about this Žižek article on New Statesman. And note that I was in South Africa. Oops, am I still here now? Am I here? Is it? Okay. I'll just keep talking and we'll work it out. Steve Smith says, Žižek is a cop. Where is this coming from? So there's a new article he wrote. Oh, go ahead.
Apologies for the technical difficulties. We're getting Michael's connection figured out now.
Yeah. Here, I'm just gonna don't worry about going back to the home screen. Should I just like leave and come right back? Oh, let me try something. Oh yeah, I muted when I was messing with thing. How are we doing right now? Oh great. Let me try this then.
And he will be right back. There you go.
All right, cool. Guys, what are you gonna do? I use dial-up internet on AOL. I do think once I come back from leave, I might start streaming from the office. I liked that last week. For those of you who were there, I mean, do you prefer when we start a poll on this? Maybe do we like me sitting or standing? Because I liked standing. I thought that was really fun to do a standing stream. Now the Žižek thing. Someone's talking about this before. There's this article in New Statesman, the title of which is "The Left Must Embrace Law and Order." To be clear, guys, I have not read this yet. In general, if we're going to talk about something on the stream, I don't like to watch it or read it beforehand because I think it's more fun to react with you all rather than come in with like pre-prepared thoughts. Also, you're more likely to get me saying unhinged or problematic things if I'm not prepared in that way. Someone said walking. I would love. Well, we did. Oh yeah, we did do a walking stream, but yeah. So we're gonna read this article in a bit, and who knows, guys? Maybe it is a clickbaity title that makes it sound like he's being a cop, or maybe he's just kind of being a cop. But Žižek, like a lot of people, in my humble opinion, if you don't know what we're talking about, a Slovenian philosopher and psychoanalyst, Slavoj Žižek, someone who's very popular in sort of vaguely lefty media theory, cultural studies type stuff. Someone who got very famous writing about, movies and television and stuff like that, and also psychoanalysis. So we're going to read that because he's relatively important. Another person is interesting too, that for so many years, Wisecrack would talk about Žižek in videos. He was on one of the podcasts once, and no one during those years was ever like, Wisecrack is Marxist, communist propaganda. And it's like, as soon as I start talking, it's like, oh, Burns wants to put your mom in a gulag. It's like, what are we doing, guys? Like Žižek is someone who talks about why like Stalin is good. And he was on Wisecrack, guys. There's people working on my roof right now, and the house just shook. I think I'm going to die on this stream. But I don't want to complain. And for anyone who's just showing up right now, we're going to talk about that Žižek thing in a bit. This is going to be the last Wisecrack live for a bit. Oh man, jealous shots. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Oh yeah, I guess the membership is useless. If you want to be a member of something, you can join our Patreon if you want. So let's look at some comments. And these ones are fun. And I'll tell you why they're fun, friends. We did a video for Fable, which is getting released, or the new one's coming out on Xbox soon. Sean, I do want to put Sean Grafton's mom in a gulag, but just Sean Grafton's mom. Lebowski, I often don't understand what he's on about either. Eric, your mom could go in the gulag too. Listen, if you want your mom in the gulag, we'll put her on the list. But we put out this video, and I think I mentioned this to you all last week. That's on the topic of ethics via this video game, Fable. And let's go behind the crack, and I'll just tell you what happened. So we do brand deals sometimes. Also, if you're here, please like the stream. And also, since it's the last one for a while, I don't know, share it with someone. If you're a heavy social media user, share the link. I don't know, just sharing is caring. But we do these deals. I talked about this recently, where sometimes a brand will do an RFP, a request for proposals, and they hit up our parent company, and it's like, hey, we want to spend some money to promote XYZ new thing coming out. And what are your pitches? So we, pitched a thing for Fable that we thought was a TikTok video. So we made a TikTok video for our TikTok channel promoting, this game lore, but talking about it, sorry, Fable, but talking about it in the context of ethics. And then like a couple days before videos were supposed to come out, I was on a call with some people from our company. What's up, Mellow Jello? And yeah, share the stream on Threads. I'll talk about why it's the last one for a while soon. But Jack the Templar is not wrong. But so I'm on this call and they're like, oh, and what about the YouTube video? And I'm like, what YouTube video? And they're like, oh, Wisecrack's making a YouTube video for Fable. And I say, we have not made that video. This is last week, mind you. So very quickly, all at once, we have to, and then our director, Lux, who's also one of Henry's creative partners in Texas, kind of quickly turned a TikTok video into like a 7-8 minute long YouTube video. I added a few philosophy lines. We filmed it, put it together very quickly. And the video comes out and last Friday, and some people aren't stoked, and there's always that balance of, okay, I get it. You don't want to see stuff from brands, but also you watch all of our videos for free. So what do you want us to do? And some of the comments are kind of funny. Also, there's a thing I shouldn't say. I'm going to pause on the thing that I know I shouldn't say, and I'll probably say it later. But let's go through some comments from this video on Fable. Thanks for being here again. The last Wisecrack Live for a while. Let's make it fun. Like the stream, share it with your friends. Go to a YouTube video of a channel you don't like and drop a link to this there and say, this is where reality is happening.
Yeah.
Do we have the comments up yet?
Yeah, I can load it. Yeah,
Awesome.
I have the first one.
First one I have is from Steve Smith. Is that what you have to? Awesome. So this is what I like. Steve Smith said, the intent behind this video was unethical. Okay, let's talk about the intent. The intent behind this video, right, was that we got told that we had a few hours to put together a full video for this Xbox thing because they were giving the company money, and the money they were giving us to make this is money that helps us keep doing everything else. So it's one of those things in my mind where it's like, if you don't love that video, it's fine, but that video paid for the next video that you're going to like, that's going to be on some, cultural, political, philosophical topic or something like that. Jack Templar in the chat said, yeah, price of admission. And also too, like, it wasn't like a bad video. Like we said some real stuff about ethics. We just didn't have a ton of time to go super deep. Yeah, Tyler Schmidt said, I saw the Fable video and was like, it wasn't normal content. Oh man, Steve Smith, you're here in the chat. This is great, Steve. So yeah, fuck yes. I've always wanted this to happen. But yeah, Steve, so that's like that's the intent behind it. But I guess I wonder, Steve, I want you to comment on this. Were you talking about the intent behind it from like the Xbox perspective or from our team? I'm very curious about that. Yeah, we need more licks, guys. We have people are watching, but they're not licking. Maybe it's because we keep saying lick and people are like, what is that? Or they're put off. Just like the stream, it helps us algorithmically. Ben Thompson said, yeah, missed the usual depth. For sure. For sure. And so if anyone's like, why did that video not have the usual depth? Often will take like weeks in terms of getting some research or doing research, going back and forth, writing outlines. Me and my colleague Amanda going back and forth on scripts for a while. And this one was literally like, I was on a call at 9 a.m. and we had to film the video that day. So there you go. And Big Tony says, the problem is you don't make it obvious enough in the first few minutes of sponsored content. Here's the problem. Some brands have rules around when you can like say that it's sponsored content. So there you go. Let's look at the next comment. But I'm glad Steve Smith is here. Oh, why is it not letting me click a different one? Oh, here we go. Is the next one for you the one that's from Verizen? Cool. Okay, guys. So in this video, okay. Steve Smith said, I'm going to be honest. I can't remember what I commented on. Sorry, we'll have to go back and check the video. Steve, don't be sorry. We're just glad that you're here. And you know what? All engagement is good engagement. I'm not eating a date. I'm eating blueberries, but I do have dates in the fridge. So, you guys know this. Sometimes I just say stuff during videos. And we talked about murder in the video because we're talking about ethics in the video game Fable. And I randomly said, let me know in the comments if you've ever lived next to a murderer. I say stuff, guys, and I always wonder if they're going to stay in the video or not. My dream is that someone from Xbox is like, oh, let's see how the video is doing. And they look in the comments like, why are all these comments about murder? Some of them are so grim that I wanted to show them today to you all, but they were too grim. And I was like, you don't need to see that. But this one's kind of fun. This one says, I haven't had a killer as a neighbor directly, but I did share an office for 5 years with a serial killer's daughter, the Golden State Killer. And in the space of 6 months, there were 2 murders in the same apartment, 1 row behind mine at my complex. The Golden State Killer was finally discovered in the last year that I was sharing an office with her. Guys, imagine sharing an office with someone whose dad is a famous serial killer. And real wild stuff. Real wild stuff. Let's see. Someone said we need a video on the philosophy of economics. That'd be fun. Someone said their friend was employed by a murderer. Put the grim ones in Discord. Yeah, Dead Card's absolutely right. If you want to look at the grim ones, just look at the video. They're in the comments there. But thank you so much, Dead Card. Let's look at the next one. I like this one. This is from The Last Tellurian. The irony of making a video about ethics in a paid commercial. Bet it was really easy to decide if to monetize your fans or not. So I think the implication there is that we were in the boardroom burning money, throwing coins around, saying, let's monetize our fans. They're just a bunch of peons. Who cares about those sheep? And then when we just make stuff to just shit on you and use you for money. Not at all. The funny thing is, like, here's how I think about it. When stuff like this happens, I don't think about monetizing you all. I think about monetizing a big corporation to get money to make more stuff for you all. Like, truly. So that's how I think about it. But I don't know. I wish we were as cynical as people think that we are. I wish that was the case, you know?
If we just knew people in shadowy rooms,
Yeah. Yoontown said, getting paid is so ironic. Melissa Altman said, after Katrina, there was a murderer found in the gutted out house next door to me. Fuck. Lex is trying to tag people on iPhones, just catching up with the chat, and that's what I see. Yeah. Again, let's see. Chris Maverick, PhD, says, wait, you don't have a money fireplace? What kind of rinky-dink operation are you? And I guess I sounded like John Mulaney for a second, but there you go. Ashley B is right. Michael Burns sells his fans. I have an OnlyFans, but you're the fan and I'm selling you. Here's the next one. Is from Bruce Leroy. This guy said, my dad met Ted Bundy at law school. Said he seemed like a nice guy. Hey, there you go. We can't judge people or anything. Be a nice guy. This one is from Star Trek. Sure, I'll call one out. As you might notice, I didn't pull a lot of comments from the Fable video about the Fable video. I mostly pulled comments about the murder ones because it's just why not? Why not? Jack, I'm glad you're here for the unhinged Burns questions. Alec Cattail says it's so much easier to be negative Nancy. And Caro, about to fly. Thanks for being here. I wish we could be I want to make a deal. Speaking of brands, y'all, I want to get a deal with like Delta, where we're the exclusive streaming show of Delta Airlines. We do streams for every Delta flight. So you're on the plane and I'm just talking to you. This one says, sure, I'll call one out. The house across the street had a murder in the front room. I don't know the detail, but I know it's something to do with the owner's kids and that kid's friend. That was an interesting house, though. Their El Camino burst into flames and parked down the street. So yeah, interesting place. The owner and his wife were really nice. We're learning that murderers are nice. John said we're at 505. Can we see half dome? There is no half dome. There is only full dome. Logan Mansion Games. Hi, how are you? This person said, this is, I'm not going to say this username. They said, my mom and half sisters lived a few streets down from the BTK killer. Does that count, Wisecrack? And yeah, Raiders seem nice. My sisters used to play with his daughter. Hell, he used to cut through his lawn to play. I guess this makes sense, though, because if you're going to be a real murderer, like a real murderer, you have to be nice because you don't want people to suspect you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's always the quiet ones for a reason.
Yeah. So what I'm really saying is think about people in your life that you don't know that well that are really nice. Like they're probably serial killers. So there you go. Be ready. Youngtown will watch Flight Crack. I think we have one more comment. This one says, what's the ethics of running a marketing campaign for Microsoft disguised as philosophical discourse? Unless, of course, Microsoft built the entire game to explore the same ethical quagmire in the first place. I'll talk about this. So what are the ethics of running a marketing campaign for Microsoft disguised philosophical discourse? Well, ethically, and we might watch this video later where I guess someone talks about why the no ethical consumption under capitalism thing is a sham. And I could see an argument for that. I think the ethics of it are that we live in a set of economic conditions where for us to make content that is critical and exploratory of those social and cultural conditions, we need a baseline amount of capital to pay the overhead to make those things and to make enough profit to justify a publicly traded corporation keeping us on as one of their properties. So to do that, we then have to make calculated decisions about who to take money from and what to make so we can continue to facilitate that goal. I think in this instance, it was Microsoft saying, you can just talk about philosophy and mention the game. And we were like, okay, so we're still just going to talk about like Foucault and Kierkegaard and stuff like that. We'll show some clips from the video game. No harm, no foul.
I think
that's what I think the ethics of that are. Go ahead, Henry.
I was about to say, I think the word disguised is doing some dishonest work too in that comment, as far as like we're not hiding the philosophy angle in making a film. It's as you're doing right now, you're talking very candidly about it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess that's the thing too. Like, I mean, this is why I'm not long for this world, but not lying to you about it, not acting like it's a secret. The Nothing Special Spy in the chat says, cheers from Chile, land of earthquakes. We recorded a video the other day, The Nothing Special Spy, where I call out Chileans and I want your feedback on something. So when you watch that video, I want to hear from you because, I want the Chilean perspective. Okay, we're at 11:22. This is Wisecrack Live. It's Michael Burns, Amir's producer, Henry. This is our last stream for a while. If you're going to miss Henry and myself, Ryan, the berries are dead. I've killed the berries. If you're going to miss Henry and myself, follow either of us on Twitter if you want to get quips. I liked Henry had a good, what did you... Gosh darn it. I feel like you had a really good tweet thread the other day, Henry. Was it about
I had
a movie
lot
or a
of
TV
feelings
show?
on movies this weekend because
What was the recent one? Was it an Asteroid City thing?
I was tweeting about Dial of Destiny because
Dial of Destiny, yes. And I really agreed. I agreed with that. We can have a quick Dial of Destiny corner. I mean, I'll quickly say what I think, and then Henry, you should speak on this. But I thought it was going to be absolute ass, and I thought it was really fun.
Yeah, on like a fundamental like writing level, it understood how to keep an action scene interesting. There's a lot of like micro complications within like the chases and beats, and like it hits at a lot of things that I associate with Indiana Jones that's not nostalgia or childhood, and I thought it was just functionally very entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, Harrison Ford's fantastic. He's still fantastic. Watching Harrison Ford on a screen rips. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is great. And there's elements of the movie which suck, but they're the things that suck about every movie, namely CGI and not doing things practically.
Right.
It was cool, but that's just kind of like everything. So it's hard to be specifically upset about that movie.
It was so, yeah, exactly. It was so less intrusive with a lot of its wonk than like Crystal Skull was, for example. The one thing I can think
Yeah.
of that I really didn't like was that when Harrison Ford was with his, young deep fake face, he still had the old man voice.
Yeah.
But aside from that, there weren't any like glaring technical issues that were keeping me from like distracted from the visceral thrill of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think also it just speaks to just the impotence of fandom, or just like, I don't know. I think the idea of like hate watching something because it ruined your childhood seems just kind of out the window now. It seems kind of like an empty argument that's kind of going the way of the dodo with the way post-COVID movies have to economically work for their dinner now.
Yeah. Agreed all around. And I like Henry's Twitter thread around it, so go look at that. And hey, if anyone's on any of the apps, I got on Blue Sky and Threads this week. I'm gonna soft launch different personalities on each of them and see which one works. A couple other things before we get cooking. Again, we're doing what we're doing. This is the last Wisecrack Live for a bit because I'm gonna be going on leave as my wife and I are about to have our first child. So I'm gonna take some time off work. I hope that's okay with all of you. I'm going to come back to this pretty quick, though, because that's a thing I can do from home. Might even do some like shorter things. Whoa, Andrew, daughter was born the 19th of last month. Amazing. Congrats to Andrew Adams in the chat. Everyone give Andrew Adams some love.
Yeah.
That's amazing, bud. I'm hopefully going to be with you. Our kids will be very close in age. But everyone give some love to Andrew Adams. That's awesome. I know Logan Rees brings up needing a Blue Sky invite. I've not gotten one yet. It is not. They've not given me codes yet.
Same.
Yeah. It sounds like someone's rolling like a wheelbarrow full of bricks on the roof of my place right now. So if you do see a man fall through the ceiling on top of me with a wheelbarrow of bricks, that's what you're seeing. But again, this isn't the last Wisecrack Live ever. It's the last Wisecrack Live for now, but we'll be coming back, so don't even worry about it. And just a reminder as well, I'll read through some of these later. I got some really great baby advice from some of you at our email, which is wisecracklive666@gmail.com. Got some episode ideas, and then we got some commercials as well. We got some ads. So we've asked you before, if you want to write ads, you can give us ads. So we might read some of the ads you all have written for us later. So thanks for doing that. So let's see. Let's check out this Žižek article. Okay, so it's in the New Statesman. It's called "The Left Must Embrace Law and Order," subtitled "In France and Elsewhere, Everyday Insecurity Hurts the Poor much more than the rich." Awesome. By Mr. Slavoj Žižek. Okay. Someone said 666. Ashley B. Yes. Matthew took parental leave for both. That is great. Wait, we didn't get to 666 though, right? Or did we? Oh yeah. That's. Oh God, we're at nothing. We ain't shit. But do like the stream if you're here. Tell all your friends. So let's look at this article. So Slavoj Žižek says, two events have gripped public attention during this increasingly, I don't know this word. Do you know what febrile means, Henry? Yeah. Guys, I'll say a thing too. It's good to admit when you don't know words. For a while, I thought I was the stupidest person out of all of my friends because no one just wants to admit stuff. I don't know what that word means. If you're in the chat and you know what the word febrile, Febrile means, let us know.
I looked it up. It's having or showing symptoms of fever.
Okay, yeah, we got a feverish summer. So let's see. It says the failed military mutiny in Russia, the violent protests in France, although the media has covered both in detail, a feature they share has passed unnoticed. I don't know a lot about the Russia situation. I know a little bit more about France. Let's see. It says looting and arson attacks spread through France after police shot dead a 17-year-old boy called Nahel in the Nanterre suburb of Paris on 27 June. One thing that's interesting, some of you know this, but when we talk about Paris and we talk about suburbs, in Paris, the suburbs tend to be the places where, like in America, we call like projects or whatever. In Paris, the central city and stuff like that is the nice rich area, and a lot of working and immigrant communities are in the suburbs outside of that. Because it's interesting because, in America, we have suburbs and it's sort of like very plain, middle class, boring. But yeah, it says in cities across the country, rioters erected barricades, lit fires. This whole apartment is shaking. Lit fires and shot fireworks at police who responded with tear gas, water cannons, and stun grenades. So just like a normal weekend in America.
So I don't know. Am I just like that left in my news digestion that I have heard about this stuff, or I've at least seen reactionaries complaining about this stuff? I feel like the media has been looking at this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's again, I guess it depends on where we're looking and what our news sources are. But yeah, I've been hearing about this. So, yeah, I'm sure. I'm curious in the chat. Like, is this something that, depending on where you are in the world and what news you're looking at, is this stuff you're hearing about? Peter Jang said in the chat, "Be ignorant, be happy." I mean, I agree. I agree with the ignorance and happiness. Let's see. It says events took an even more ominous turn when the police began to act as autonomous agents, threatening to revolt unless President Emmanuel Macron resolved the crisis. That's crazy. Police acting as autonomous agents, not taking directions from anyone else. That is wild. Someone said, "Bonsoir from Riotland. Have a nice day." Oui, oui, oui. Good to hear from a French correspondent. Smudge had big news last week in the UK. There you go. Goes on to say the predictable leftist narrative. Okay, so this is interesting when you have someone like Žižek, who I think has historically been associated with the left, or a little less so in recent years, to kind of pull the card of like, there you go. So the predictable leftist narrative is that the police is racially biased. French égalité is a fiction. Young immigrants rebel because they have no future. And a way to solve this crisis, Jesus fucking Christ. Sorry, guys, my entire apartment is shaking right now. Do not like. And the way to solve this crisis is not more police suppression, but a radical transformation of French society. I'm gonna let's read this part again, because it's being said, a bit tongue in cheek, but by Žižek here. So, the predictable leftist narrative is that the police is racially biased. French égalité is a fiction. Young immigrants rebel because they have no future. And the way to solve this crisis is not more police suppression, but a radical transformation of French society. And I do think that's like a fairly, left, socialist, whatever you want to call it, position. Goes on to say, anger has been building for years, and Niall's killing was the latest detonation that brought it into the open. Violent protests are a reaction to the problem, not the problem itself. Okay, scrolling down to where it keeps going. He says there is some truth to this narrative. Like the stream, if you think reading long-form articles and discussing them is good. When protests broke out in 2005, after the deaths of 2 teenagers who were electrocuted while being pursued by police, we don't like that. The matrix of prejudices and exclusions that define the lives of immigrant youth in France was revealed. Yet overhauling society to solve the historic problems of identity, economic exclusion, and colonial injustice is a problematic solution. It assumes a progressive outcome when none seems forthcoming. See, Ashley B says, months of French riots later, it is coming to the cycle, but the framing is as a Muslim riot. So maybe Ashley B is in India. We were talking about where you were before. Alexa, there's not an earthquake. You might have heard me say this before. People are working on the roof of my building right now. So there's just humans running back and forth, up and down. Totally fine. Totally normal stuff. Not anxiety inducing at all for me and my 39 weeks pregnant wife. We love to have a shaking apartment. It feels great. Okay. Let's see. Yes Man says, Žižek tends to be contrarian and ironic, at times annoyingly so. Haven't read this article. I've already guessed. I'd say that's where it's coming from. No, definitely. He can be very much like that. So yeah, I don't know. I think that like everything being said thus far falls into like the common narratives around this stuff. And I do think when we think about a place like France, it's always important to remember that like I think it's with France, we can often think of France as a place that like, oh, a relatively, you know, I don't even want to say egalitarian, but like a solid society, good healthcare and public transit, great food, solid education system. Oh, the French Revolution. Oh, they protest and they riot and they protect their rights. All good. Yeah, 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 yeah. But what's up, Alex? Glad you made it. There's also the thing in France, of course, where like they colonized huge parts of North Africa and did lots of colonization and violent colonization. Read the works of Frantz Fanon if you want to hear more about this, among other folks. So there's this like contradiction when we think about France between French Revolution, liberté, égalité, fraternité, and like French colonization, right? And a lot of the groups of people that are getting talked about in this stuff are from groups that were colonized by France themselves. Someone said experiencing Braxton Hicks contractions on the roof. Yes, my roof is very much Braxton Hicksing. Thomas Freeborn, I'm glad that you're here and not working, because when you're here, you're family. Someone brought up Vietnam as well. Yes. Okay, let's go on. So the protesters' targeting of local buses, for example, so crucial in transporting workers from the low-income suburbs on the edge of Paris, indicates two things. One, the riots have wrecked the infrastructure that sustains the livelihoods of ordinary people, and the victims of destruction are the poor, not the rich. So, and this is like an argument you hear in America, right? So like after, like when Michael Brown was, murdered outside St. Louis, there was rioting and some businesses burnt down, and kind of the narrative you would see in the news, both like liberal and right-wing news in America, you'd hear a lot of like, these people are destroying their own community. They're burning down their gas stations, whatever. And one way that I've always thought about this, and I'm curious what you all think. I'm curious what Henry thinks about this. But outright Tiny, I very much agree with what you're saying. And our French correspondent in the chat said, let's see. It is to be known that Paris, after the commune, was destroyed and rebuilt by the bourgeois with the guidance of Haussmann to eliminate any possibility of making barricades. Yeah, there you go. I'm glad to have a French correspondent in the chat today. But I think there's this expectation sometimes that after a horrific and dehumanizing act of violence or crime, we then expect the, I guess, like collective emotional reaction to the unhuman act to be incredibly, I guess, like logical or reasonable. And I do think sometimes when I look at, let's say, folks in a community who have had a horribly, racist act committed against them, if something's burning down or there's rioting or whatever it is, there's an element of that I at least think of as like an effective response, an emotional response, something that exceeds the limits of reason. In that same way where sometimes if we are angry or if we're grieving, we don't react like logically. We don't always react in a way that prioritizes even self-preservation, but that it's like you can only take so much before you kind of explode. And I guess I think of that sometimes, at least in America, when there's been events in which, like a George Floyd or Freddie Gray or Mike Brown are murdered. I can only think about this as someone that exists outside those communities. But if you're in, a Black community in America, I imagine it only takes so much before at a certain point things kind of pop off. And I think of like, a movie in this regard scene is like Do the Right Thing, Spike Lee film, right? What is that movie about? It's about sort of like a breaking point. It's not about people reacting to one thing that happens on one day. It's sort of the collective tensions and anxieties around racism and classism and police violence all coalescing into one moment. And yeah, so Cheyenne Morrison said a riot is the language of the unheard from MLK. Yeah. Let's see. I'm just catching. Yeah, if you have thoughts on this, go ahead, Henry.
I'm just thinking about, at least in American culture, how much there's just the background radiation of respectability politics and model minorityism always presenting a pressure on people of color that I can completely understand why it pents up and there's an emotional response. And again, I do. I mean, I was all for the Chaz. I'm pretty much on the side of the rioters in most cases.
Yeah.
I mean, structurally, what are we even doing at this point when we're just kind of like speeding towards another war? It,
Yeah.
it boils down to being told to act a certain way because if you act within that way, society will respond by rewarding you with the benefits of like living in a social structure. But
Mhm.
when the social structure is so blatantly unjust or so clearly not working towards those goals, why would you act that way?
Yeah. Brenton Beard in the chat says, "How dare you burn down our local community, Walmart?" And that's the point of it too. Sometimes people are destroying elements that are just businesses exploiting those communities anyways, and not like locally grown businesses. Ashley B said, Žižek has said that the left doesn't know what to do the day after the revolution comes. This article is in line with that. And of course, there's like a truth to that. But yeah, at a certain point too, I just think like, yeah, I mean, Logan Reed says cops murdering children is civil, breaking a window is uncivil. And that is a thing you see in like American liberal respectability culture, that some people will be more upset about a Target being looted than they are about a human being
Right, the priority of
dying.
property over people, just extremely frustrating stuff.
Yeah. And at a certain point too, it's almost like if if you dehumanize a sector of society for so long and then you expect them to act like, and I don't mean this in a demeaning way, but like precisely humane and rational, why would that happen? If you tell a group of people that from the perspective of the state or whoever, you're basically like animals, then you're going to get mad when they react with any sort of like aggression, catharsis, whatever it might be. I don't know.
Also, just to the point of they're hurting their own communities, who owns the Target that gets looted? Who owns the
Yeah,
7-Eleven whose inventory is insured? Like, who owns these things? Like, are they right around the corner? Is that is that the personal property of a citizen in your community?
for sure, for sure. So yeah, I'll go on in the article. But really, yeah, Henry, you're on fire today. Um, Public protests and uprisings can play a positive role if they are sustained by an emancipatory vision, such as the 2013-14 maiden uprising in Ukraine and the ongoing Iranian protests triggered by Kurdish women who refused to wear the burqa. Even the threat of violent action is sometimes necessary for political revolution. And like I get what he's saying here, that like often if there is a unifying emancipatory vision behind stuff, that's helpful. But I would also argue that forces in power like of neoliberalism in the state these days have done a lot of work in undermining the possibility of emancipatory visions, right? Like even I'm going to give a silly example, guys, that's a little bit off. So if you're going to be like, that's a little bit off, Michael, I'm acknowledging it. But it's kind of like in 2020 in America, you made like the Bernie Sanders protest. Not that he was some like radical, but it was like something. It was something. But what happens at the moment where it was like, he wins Nevada by a landslide? It's like, oh, fuck, this guy might be the nominee. Obama and co make some calls and they shut the shit down. And I'm not being conspiratorial. We have enough evidence to know that some of that did go down. Well, why? Because it's not in the interest of anyone, whether it be liberals or conservatives, to create the space for emancipatory visions, because those emancipatory visions directly contradict the logic of the state and the logic of the market. So all that to say is I don't disagree with what Žižek is saying there, but I think one also has to acknowledge we can't expect people to have some clearly articulated vision of what the better world is when we don't even create the space for that. And I'm not as aware of like the French political situation, but like even speaking to America, right? Like, how are we going to be mad that people don't have some egalitarian vision when we live in a two-party system where both parties in many ways are pretty similar? It's not even like there's like some active left or progressive parties that articulate a coherent vision that's publicly known that we can get behind, So I don't know. Let's see. Checking out the chat. Someone said, Big Tony said, why don't minority groups in the US start their own political parties? Well, it's hard, if almost impossible, to start a political party in America because political parties aren't a formal part of the government. They're these like private organizations, basically, that are funded by people with a lot of money. And we have a system that's fundamentally inconducive to, to the creation of political parties. So you kind of got that. Let's see. Okay, let's get back to this article. I think we stopped at okay, yeah. So 2 historic victories canonized by the liberal commentariat, the rise to power of the African National Congress in South Africa, and the U.S. civil rights protest led by Martin Luther King Jr. were only possible because they were backed by the prospect of violence by the radical wing of the ANC and more militant Black Americans. The negotiations over ending apartheid in South Africa and abolishing racial segregation in the U.S. succeeded because of these threats. I don't know. I feel like we don't often hear that narrative, but who am I to disagree with Professor Žižek? Thanks for being here, guys. Like the chat. Let's try to get a 666 in today. Why not? And again, if you're just showing up, we're reading this New Statesman article by Žižek called "The Left Must Embrace Law and Order," and we're checking it out. Žižek goes on to say, yet this is not the situation in France today, where violent rebellion is unlikely to end with any kind of progressive settlement for the wretched of the earth. Now, when he says for the wretched of the earth, I mean, it seems like he's pointing to Frantz Fanon there. Frantz Fanon, an Afro-Caribbean psychiatrist and writer. We're talking about in a recent video, and I'll say this to plug things right now. We have a video coming out this week, I think, tomorrow even, on existentialism that looks at this idea of like, have we all been wrong about existentialism? And is it actually a little bit more political and social than we thought? And it looks at Simone de Beauvoir and Frantz Fanon. There's going to be some comments that say that I don't say Sartre correctly. And to those commenters, I say, shut up. Let's see. Okay. Oh, also, and I want to tease this as well, because one of our friends donated $100 to do this last week. We're going to watch a video and talk about Georgism, a theory that I know nothing about. So I'm going to learn about it on stream today with you. And note that, what's up, Contemplor? Note that you can pay us to talk about a topic. It doesn't mean we're going to like say that we like it or fully endorse it, but we're going to give it a chance. So there you go. Okay, so Wretched of the Earth line, he says, if law and order are not promptly restored, the final outcome may be the election of Marie Le Pen, the leader of the hard right National Rally Party, as the new president. And for those who aren't familiar with French politics, Le Pen, leader of the Front National, which is their sort of right-wing party, and the very simple, boring analysis would be that Dennis's comment is very funny. Thank you for that, Dennis. Someone says, this channel fell off so hard. I'm sorry that you don't like it anymore, but all I hope is that you found a channel that you like. Because I think YouTube's big and there's something for everyone. But again, it's funny because this channel used to talk about Žižek all the time. And the last host of this channel was really into Žižek. But then when I talk about it, people were like, oh, you fell off. It's just like, no, you just don't like me. And it's fine that you don't like me. That's the thing I've learned, guys. We're going to do a little sidebar here. It's okay that people don't like you sometimes. And it's okay that you don't like some people. You don't have to like everyone. You don't have to be mean to people you don't like, but it's a weird expectation. And I started becoming a happier person when I realized that it's okay if some people just don't like me. In the same way that some people just don't like certain foods. And that doesn't mean that that food is bad or evil or whatever. We have different preferences and it's fine. So I would say accept that. Matt J said, I agree with Gabriel Rockhill on Žižek. I don't know what Rockhill says, but a friend of mine did his PhD with Gabriel Rockhill. Hey, thanks, Booker. So let's get back to this article. So yeah, so the argument Zizek's basically making, which I don't love, because this is the argument you heard a lot of like Democrat establishment types in America would be like, oh, if we protest, if we push too far, then the right's going to win. And that's what Zizek's saying here, right? That if violent rebellion happens, what is the outcome going to be? Well, it's not going to be the creation of a more egalitarian situation. It's going to be giving, no pun intended, it will fuel the fire of the right. And maybe. Doesn't ever annoy you when people when you're like, why don't you like me though? I'm sick as fuck. I don't know. Someone said if I was a food, what would I be? I mean, I want to say like something fun like Thai food, but I'd probably be something much more boring than that. Um, let's see. But if people don't like me, then my parents will break up again. Smudge. I don't know. That's funny. Um, so let's keep going. It says the anti-immigrant nationalists are in power in Sweden, Norway, and Italy. Why not in France? Macron has presented himself as a technocrat with no firm political stance. I say this as a non-French person, but he kind of sucks. But a position that was once seen as a strength now looks like a fatal weakness. In Russia, it was difficult to miss the comic nature of I'm going to butcher this name, and I'm so sorry, Russian and Eastern European friends. I'm so sorry. Emilio said, I think Žižek is to philosophy as Michio Kaku is to science. Emilio, say more. So I was really into Michio Kaku when I was a child and read a lot of his books. So I'm curious. I think I get what you're meaning, but I'd love to hear you say a little bit more. Let's see. Where is this? Kevin Steinmetz says Zizek is kind of making an argument. Sorry, the chat keeps moving. About the British and America left realist arrived at in 1980s that the left's failure to talk about law and order abdicates the issue to the right. Yeah, I mean, there's something to that. Someone said I seem like a bangers and mash kind of guy. Yeah, I mean, I was going to say like I might just be something kind of boring like that, like a corned beef and potatoes situation, or just like a simple roast chicken with some potatoes or something like that. Okay, so let's get to Russia and me just butchering names, and I'm so sorry in advance. It was difficult to miss the comic nature of Yevgeny Prigozhin's march on Moscow. It was over within 36 hours after the Kremlin offered him a deal. Prigozhin has avoided a legal trial, but has been forced to withdraw his mercenaries from Ukraine and move to Belarus. We don't know enough to say what really happened. Was his march meant as a full-scale attack to occupy Moscow, or was it an empty threat, a gesture not meant to be realized, as Prigozhin himself has suggested? Also, in terms of Russia, if you guys haven't watched the newer Adam Curtis 12-part series on Russia, pretty interesting historically. Pedro, we don't know if he's a cop yet or not. We're still getting into it. Someone said Thai sausage and match. That might be it. Sorry, guys. You guys are killing it in the chat, but we'll catch up. The Nothing Special Spy says, maybe the article of Žižek is afraid of having to look for another fascist wave, which is definitely coming from the first world. It's very true. Let's see. The entire episode may have also been a brute form of business negotiation, an attempt to prevent the passing of a law which stipulated that irregular forces such as the Wagner group had to fall under the command of regular armed forces. Whether it was an attempted coup or a business negotiation by mutiny, the event bears witness to the reality that Russia is becoming a failed state, a state that has to treat uncontrolled military gangs as partners in a grubby deal. Okay, we're getting some Russia stuff here. Again, thanks for being here. Thank you for liking the stream. We're reading this article, The Left Must Embrace Law and Order by Slavoj Žižek, to see if he's a cop. And everyone knows you got to say if you're a cop. If you're a co-op, you got to say if you're a co-op. The events in France and Russia are part of a trend in Europe towards instability, crisis, and disorder. Today, failed states are not only in the global south, from Somalia to Pakistan to South Africa. If we measure a failed state by the crack-up of state power, as well as the heightened atmosphere of ideological civil war, deadlocked assemblies, and the growing insecurity of public spaces, then Russia, France, the UK, and even the US should be understood in similar terms. We did a video about this on the channel about how, by some metrics, America is like not doing so good. On the 19th of June, 2022, Texas Republicans approved measures declaring that President Joe Biden was not legitimately elected and rebuked the Republican Senator John Cornyn for taking part in bipartisan talks about gun control. They also voted on a platform that declared homosexuality an abnormal lifestyle choice and called for Texas school children to learn about the humanity of the preborn child. That is, when they're dodging bullets. That was in the article. That was editorial. But you saw that because we have the text on the screen. Let's see. The first measure, declaring that Biden's election was invalid, is a clear move towards a cold civil war in the U.S., the delegitimization of the political order. In France, talk of a coming civil war is de rigueur on the hard right. Speaking on French radio on the 30th of June, the hard right politician, polemicist Eric Zemmour described the riots as the beginning of a civil war, an ethnic war. Oh boy. Ooh, I like shishito peppers a lot. Hey, Hickey said, my bad, just waking up. Should I start the stream from the beginning or what? I don't know. Might as well just get into it. Prairie Fire, thank you so much. Really appreciate you. Yeah, someone says, Zachary Davis says America's a state, and there's been a huge lack of protesting about it. Let's see, just catching up on the chat. I mean, yeah, so I do think this point of delegitimization is really crucial. I do think it's the case that we're seeing a large scale political delegitimization of like the liberal democratic order. For much of my lifetime, as someone who was born in the 80s, there's been this level of like de facto legitimacy to governments and elections and markets and all these sorts of things. And we're seeing a delegitimization on both sides, where I think some on the left want to delegitimize elements of the political order for not being as democratic as they say they are. People on the right want to do the same in often for very different ways. Vittoria says that the Barbie movie, the end of culture. I don't think so, but I think that the Hasbro extended universe might. Which if it was, yeah, go ahead, Henry.
I don't think we're gonna get as many of those movies as they're pitching, because that Daniel Kaluuya Barney movie has been in talks since like 2019.
Yeah, I'm not worried. And again, like we all know that most things that get talked about never get. So, okay. So here we go. So we're getting the line now that comes from the title. Oh, yeah, we don't have that much. We're going to read the whole article. So guys, no matter what today, we all are reading an entire essay by a philosopher together because we're a group of readers. And again, thanks for being here. Thanks for letting us do this. It's fun to read articles. And we're almost done. So we'll talk about this. Keep sharing your thoughts and questions and stuff like that. And if you haven't liked the stream yet, it might be a thing that you're like, why do I have to do that? You don't have to do anything, right? This isn't a Law and Order situation. This is a freely democratic space. It's helpful if you like the stream, because the more people like it, the more serves it to people, and the more YouTube serves it to people, the more folks watch it. The more folks watch it, the better the numbers are. The better the numbers are, the more we can justify continuing to do this. And it'd be nice to go out on a bang. I got some good numbers today, so there you go. Okay, last section of the article. It says, in this general situation, the left must assume the slogan of law and order as its own. Now, before we really get into this, I'm going to devil's advocate here. And by devil's advocating, I'm going to devil's advocate in a way that I think will probably align me with what Žižek is saying. Sometimes I think that a lot of young, normally white, normally comfortably middle class, very online, left-leaning people are very comfortable in being like, all law and order and regulation and rules and everything is bad. It should all go away. And they don't often want to consider the fact that like maybe that might not be the best, that like maybe like there needs to be some, and I say this word, and again, I'm kind of devil's advocating, but I think there's this reaction sometimes, and it can be very idealistic, that like get rid of all forces of public safety and law and order and everything will just be great. And I don't think that's true. I don't think it's practical.
Yeah, I think we're beyond the kind of technological and population sizes that would allow for like an agrarian anarchy where everybody's just able to get along, especially with things like climate change coming on. I just think there's certain elements of superstructure we kind of have to figure out, even in our fiction, when we're talking about like Star Trek and stuff in the popular imagination. Like, there's still a military endeavor. That doesn't mean we turn into an authoritarian state, though. I think it should manifest more as education and civic participation.
Yeah. I think that our political imaginary has to go beyond, like Henry just said, either authoritarian cop state and anarchist utopia, right? But all that's, and I'm saying that before I'm reading this further. So I'm curious what he has to say, but that's me being honest. So Fireful said the prevention of emancipatory change is one of the many reasons why those with power or wealth will never make AI that is aligned with humanity. For sure, right? I think AI is going to be aligned with the perpetuation of like the security state and aligned with the perpetuations of the market. It'll be used in ways that favor security and surplus capital and not humans. Eric, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Let's see. Dead Card 13 says we should have law and order, but it cannot be used as an excuse for brutality. Well, and here's the thing too. Someone made this point before in the chat. If this was you, I'm sorry that I forgot, when you said this. The forces, when we're talking about protest, right? When police, at least in America, respond to certain protest, we see this, right? They protect the interest of capital and not the interest of individuals, right? When the target is on fire, we protect the target. When people are in dangerous situations, they are not being protected. So I think sometimes the question isn't so much of like public safety forces in general, like categorically being bad, but maybe I'm wrong, guys. I'm kind of but I think it's like the teleology of those things, the aim of those things, and what would it look like to have some type of public safety in a society that the telos of which was protecting humanity and human interest and keeping humans safe and not protecting the interest of the state, the securitization of the state, the interest of capital. I don't know if that's possible, but there you go. Penny Waldrop says the problem with the slogan law and order is what they want, not what you mean, for sure. And the problem with law and order in this instance too, and I do think, I do think the problem with law and order in this instance is like, I think of Law and Order, and I think of, well, obviously the TV show, and I think of and an really cool sax solo. But I think of like Ronald Reagan, Reagan talking about law and order. People on the right in America using that as a slogan to often mean a heavy control by the state of poor and working people for the sake of safety, comfort, and surplus capital for the upper classes. And I think that it's like hard to, Dennis brings up a lot of reverb in that sax. So yeah, here I'll keep reading because we're almost there. So the left must assume the slogan of law and order as its own. Again, we're reading this Žižek article. The left must embrace law and order. Thanks for being here. We're learning stuff. Ryan, we're almost done with it. One of the most depressing facts in recent history is that the only case of a violent revolutionary crowd invading the seat of power was on January 6, 2021, when Donald Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol. They viewed the election as illegitimate, a theft organized by corporate elites. Left liberals reacted with a mix of fascination and horror. Some of my friends cried, saying, "We should be doing something like this." There was both envy and condemnation as they watched ordinary people breaking into the pinnacle of state sovereignty, creating a carnival that momentarily suspended the rules of public life. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What are you thinking, Henry? You reacted.
I wouldn't classify them as ordinary people. It was a specific subset of like upper class wealth on its way out that went for Trump, and those people could afford to go to the Capitol. They could buy the trips. They could take the time off work. There's some studies that were like basically looking at the wealth of the people who attended January 6th, and it was like a 90-10 split. Like, yeah, these people are the ones who, they have a used car lot that's dying, or they have a strip mall that had some bad business the past few years because of COVID. I don't think they're representative of ordinary Americans.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, like, something you see with that, which gets back to the question of like counter ideologies. I think the fun, and again, I'm going to say the word funny right now, while acknowledging that like people who didn't need to got hurt and killed that day, and that there were some really very fucked up things that happened on January 6th.
Yeah.
But the funny part of it for me, looking back a little bit and bracketing a lot of stuff, was they got to the place they wanted to be in and they didn't know what to do.
Right. Like, they did the best they could articulate was asking for a manager. That's just kind of how America conditions people.
Yes. Cheyenne Morrison said one of her sorority sisters was there. That's amazing. But yeah, and someone said private jet owner. Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of rich people there too. But like it was non-ideological. And I think that like when left liberals wanted, he says his friend said, we should do something like this. Yeah, but only if there's a point. Right. Only if there's a coherent strategy or structure to what you're doing. because as we saw with January 6th, there wasn't a point. So I don't know. We'll keep going and get through this, guys. It says, by launching a popular attack on the seat of power, has the populist right stolen the left's resistance to the prevailing system? Is our only choice now between parliamentary elections controlled by corrupted elites or uprisings controlled by the hard right? No wonder Steve Bannon, the ideologist of the popular right, declares himself a Leninist for the 21st century. Quote, I'm a Leninist. Lenin wanted to destroy the state, and that's my goal too. I want to bring everything crashing down and destroy all of today's establishment. Guys, whoever thought that one of the executive producers on the TV show Seinfeld would be quoted as saying, I want to bring everything crashing down and destroy all of today's establishment. If any of you didn't know that Steve Bannon was involved in Seinfeld and still gets Seinfeld checks. So every time you're watching Seinfeld on your local, third tier channel or whatever, Steve Bannon's getting the bag. Let's see. I'm confused by some of the comments. We're going to finish this article. We're going to do some other. So thanks for being here. While the populist right was ecstatic about the 6th of January, the liberal left acted like good old conservatives, asking for the National Guard to crush the rebellion. Which, okay, I agree with him there. That in light of things like January 6th and many things around Trump, a lot of like left liberals who had Instagram things that were like Black Lives Matter were then like, Comey is my god. The FBI is good. Bust these people. Like, it's very selective sometimes when people get very into supporting law enforcement in those ways. So, let's see. Just catching up with the chat a little bit. Okay, keep reading. And we're almost there, friends. At the roots of this weird situation, we find a unique combination of anarchy and savage authoritarianism. We're entering a time of insurrection and mobocracy, as well as the unprecedented concentration of power in the hands of a few. Oh, philosopher Catherine Malibu. Like her very much. Read Catherine Malibu if you like philosophy. I ate oysters with her once. I had a lovely time eating oysters and drinking some white wine with the philosopher that is getting mentioned here. It is what philosopher Catherine Malibu, or if we're going to be French, Catherine Malibu, calls the combination at once senseless, monstrous, and unprecedented of savage verticality and uncontrollable horizontality. And as the state's social function has been eroded through years of austerity, it can now only express itself through the use of violence. That is why it is crucial not just to dismiss the state as the instrument of domination. In natural disasters, public health catastrophes, and periods of social unrest, progressive forces must try and seize state power and use it, not only to calm people's fears in times of emergency, but also to fight those fears, racist, xenophobic, sexist, anti-progressive, artificially concocted to keep population in check. The left shouldn't be afraid to add to its tasks, ensuring the safety of ordinary people. There are clear signs of the growing decay of manners, of youthful gangs terrorizing public spaces from stations to shopping malls. Mentioning this decay is often dismissed as reactionary, with the insistence that we must look at the deeper social roots of such phenomenon, such as unemployment and institutional racism. I mean, before we get to this last paragraph, say real Dennis Vandermeer gets it. I just saw someone say Gilmore Girls. Chris said Gilmore Girls. I love Gilmore Girls. But I do think it's interesting because I kind of like agree. The first part of this, the paragraph that started the left shouldn't. I'll be honest with y'all. Internally, I was struggling because I was agreeing with some of this and maybe not wanting to. Like when it's like we should care about the safety of ordinary people, I'm like, yeah. And the decay of manners has been bad. I'm going to give a real example. People talk too much at concerts now. Post-COVID, people do not know how to act at concerts. They talk too much, they drink too much, and do too many drugs. And I'm not being a cop here. What I say is drink as much or do as many drugs as you want if you can handle yourself. Being so inebriated on substances that you ruin someone else's time or become a problem is not fun. And you don't have a right to do that. Also, if someone, and concerts cost so much now because Ticketmaster and Live Nation is like one of the worst corporate entities in the world, you're basically paying $100 to see almost anything these days. And come on, guys, like we've accepted as a society that if you pay $15 for a movie ticket, people around you should shut the fuck up. You go to a concert, man. Oh, it's horrible. But all I'll just say is reading that paragraph, I'm like, yes, it is not wrong to say that we shouldn't disregard the importance of public safety, social manners, and to get back to like our wisecrack politics of everyone should have a good life and empathy. Like everyone should have a good life. We should have empathy for everyone to live in a solid way. But then the way he kind of like, it feels like he's being dismissive because he puts it in scare quotes of deeper social roots of such phenomenon. And I think that is true. Like you can't just start busting down on people and busting down on like kids acting like fucking idiots. And let's be fair, kids do stuff sometimes act like fucking idiots. Kids go, it just, we can say it. Teens are idiots sometimes. I was an idiot teen. You were probably an idiot teen. Some of you in this chat right now might be idiot teens. Let me know if you're an idiot teen. But like, we can't just crack down on stuff without being like, yeah, but maybe people are like stealing shit because unemployment is terrible and they can't get jobs. Maybe they're in a position because of institutional racism, lack of access to education. We have to like talk about this stuff. Chris Maverick's team Rory. So we'll finish the article now. Yet if the left disregards public safety and is conceding to the enemy an important domain of dissatisfaction that in a time of anarchy pushes people to the right. Everyday insecurity hurts the poor much more than the rich who live calmly in their gated communities. Guys, I'll give my quick thoughts. I'm curious what everyone else thinks here. I think there's a version of this essay that's way more measured and way more persuasive that leads with like a bigger level of solidarity and empathy with current social uprisings, but still acknowledges the importance of a certain type of public safety that doesn't do it in a way that like plays into some of these right-wing tropes. I think that's what some people probably find not unsettling, but just like not fun about pieces like this, that it does feel like it plays into some of those tropes. And I just think that the last line, like everyday insecurity hurts the poor much more than the rich who live calmly in their gated communities. Well, of course, everything does. Like climate change hurts poor people more. Inflation hurts poor people more. Lack of access to public transportation hurts poor people more. Education being tied to tax brackets hurts poor people more. Like that's just how things work. So I don't know. I think it feels like there's a way to make this argument that's a lot more convincing. And it seems like he's arguing with someone that doesn't exist, because this whole like if the left disregards public safety, in one sense, Žižek is saying the protesters in France don't have an ideology, they don't have a coherent plan. Okay, so we're basically saying then they're people in communities reacting to situations, not that they're like leftist revolutionaries with an ideological agenda. But then you're going to say if the left disregards public safety, well, that's a different thing. If we're going to make the argument that there is a coherent left with this consistent ideology that ideologically disregards public safety, two different arguments. And it seems like the latter, he's straw manning a bit. Now, to be fair, like I see people on Twitter that say things like that. I see people with hammers and sickles and who tag DSA in their Twitter account who will just be like, I want a world where there's absolutely no whatever, of course. But reacting to people on Twitter does not an essay of this scale make. So then I just wonder, like, why is he playing into this rhetoric? Because it's not, no one on the right. All this is going to do is allow some people that are right leaning to be like, see, even Žižek's on our team now. And it's going to cause some people who are more left or progressive leaning to be like, he sounds like a cop. So that's my take. Adrian said this felt angry and unfocused. JBC says this article could have been better constructed. Yoshi says, it doesn't provide anything new, as if the speech didn't come straight from a cop.
Yeah, talking about just like the made up leftist he's looking at. I mean, in my experience, offline local leftist organizations have been places that people get together for partly protection. I mean, DSA has job fairs. It's a way of organizing and figuring out what's going on with like certain city ordinances and like how you need to protect yourself. So I think while that's articulated on a local level or even on a small level on the internet, there's no big money pushes to advertise these things in the way that like corporate capitalism can afford to push its ideology forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. I'm looking. Someone said, could Žižek be making money by these actions? Adrian's talking about dating someone in the film industry. Are we doing dating stuff again? Let's see. Supine says, I don't think baby leftists today could even begin to understand how Public Enemy's 911 is a joke, was a cry for help just as much as a call for action. My feeling when Michael was learning about the Red Brown Alliance. So he's not a cop, but he messed up his messaging. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think. Let's see. Sorry, great chat, guys. Great chat. Yeah, I don't think Zizek is like a cop. Guys, you got to make thumbnails that get clicks. Got to get people in the door. But I do think he has tended really reactionary in the last decade or so.
It's been said in the chat, but there is, yeah, a bit of a scared aging person's mentality at play, I feel.
Yeah, I get it. Like, people get reactionary.
Yeah, I understand that.
And here's what I get. I get to a certain point too. If I get to an age where I know that I have like 10, 15 years left, you know what? I might just be like, I just want to like enjoy myself. I just want to like be able to like just like hang out and have an easy life. I get that. And I want folks to have that, but you know, again, it's hard to just like, it seems like he's criticizing in one sense people on the left that want to get from A to Z while also doing the same thing. In that we can't get from a situation of social unrest largely caused by systemic and historical issues and current economic and social conditions. We can't just get from that to like everyone have good manners in public without doing some serious thinking about that, you know? And again, I think he makes points in that article. I would be lying to you guys if I just like everything he said was stupid. But every time I felt like he was saying something in there where I started to be convinced, he would then undercut it. So let's see. Dude Abides hit us with a what are ya? We'll do a big what are ya at the end of this. Well, so saw Skip Intro's video at Black Mirror, which was really good, y'all. If you guys don't watch the channel Skip Intro, written by our friend Jackson, it's really good. And he put out a video on Black Mirror that I really liked. And I thought his video on Black Mirror did a good job of kind of countering some of the narrative around the show. And then Dude Abides is going to eat some Italian herb chicken and Brussels sprouts. That sounds really good. That sounds really good. Chris Maverick is in the chat starting some sort of swinging hot tub party at his house. So there you go. And someone told me I might only have 10 to 15 days. But yeah, if anyone else has thoughts on the Žižek thing, let us know. So again, this is Wisecrack Live. Probably going to be the last one we do for a while, but not for a scary reason, guys, because I am taking a break to take care of a child that will legally be 50% mine. Although I shouldn't have 50% of it legally, guys, because let me tell you, up until this point, I've done basically nothing. My wife has done everything, and not to just be the stereotypical person that talks about the wonder of life, reproduction, whatever. But it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy that a human being can just like grow another body inside of them. I wouldn't want to do it, so I'm glad that some people do, because it's good to still have people. I will say that they're not like necessarily sponsoring this stream, but we did a video with them a couple videos ago. Our friends at Schedule 35 recently sent me some more stuff, and they have some teas now, and I drank one the other day and it was awesome. And their teas come in different doses. There's like a micro dose, a middle, and a larger dose. But if anyone is interested in psilocybin products, I like them. They're like a little expensive, so I get that. So you might want to just buy them from your local guy, Dirty Randy. But if you don't want to buy mushrooms in a Ziploc bag from Dirty Randy, you can go to schedule35.co. And if you do go there, we have a code. So you can use the code Wisecrack and get 15% off, which makes it a little bit cheaper. So, just a kind of more of a friendly shout out than anything else there. So there you go. So let's check out. So here's what happened last week. Our friend, was it Jamal, right? Yes. Our friend Jamal gave us some money to talk about Georgism. So we're going to do it. We're going to watch a video on Georgism. Let me know in the chat who knows what Georgism is, because I truly, 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 truly know almost nothing about it. Almost nothing about it. So there you go. John, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. So I'm going to, I guess, should we start with the long one or the short one? Have you watched either?
I watched the Mr. Beat one. I would go with that one.
All right, cool. Ken, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. So let's pull this video up, guys.
This video is sponsored in part by Fabulous. Do you know who this man is?
We'll talk about it. Oh, Fabulous. They sponsored us once. Mr. And what's the vibe of this channel? I've never watched it before. Mr. Beat.
So Mr. Beat is a history. He's an American history YouTuber. I believe he used to be a high school history teacher. I'm familiar with him because on Twitch a while back he called every office in Congress just to see how elected officials responded.
That's funny.
Who's actually listening versus who's just very dismissive. And that was kind of how I found him. He's also done some good stuff on John Brown and the like. Mr. Beat and Knowing Better are two history YouTubers I would recommend to everybody. Awesome. They both have kind of like this disgruntled high school history teacher energy where they want to teach the kids the truth is kind of like what you get across from them.
Awesome. Jamal Thomas. So we have some videos queued up, Jamal, that we got ready for the stream. So we're going to start with this. If not, we can check some of those out. But also, if you want to know more, Jamal is sharing some videos in the chat. We can check those out as well. We only have so much time though. So if we don't get to those, apologies, but we took your call seriously. Henry researched and found some videos. So we're going to start with these. So let's start now. And I will say this to Jamal and all of you. I mean, listen, you give us $100. We're going to talk about what you want to talk about. Doesn't mean we're going to endorse it. So I'm just saying this is not an endorsement because I know nothing about this. We're going to learn about this together.
Sponsored in part by Fabulous. Do you know who the...
Wait, someone said, so what's an okay thing to say here? I've had my twice. Galicia, have we deleted this person's comments?
I have not done any comment deletion today, so I'm not sure if they're saying something that YouTube may auto flag. But I haven't put anyone in timeout or anything today, which sometimes I do have to do.
Yeah, Galicia. So I don't know what you said. I do know there's certain words that can get you like auto banned. I know, for example, sometimes on the channel, there's like, I mean, I'll be honest, like one word that will get your comment jammed up on our channel is if you talk about Jews. And I'll say why, because often people on YouTube that talk about Jews are doing anti-Semitism. And we were getting so much anti-Semitic shit at one point, we had to literally moderate the term Jews, which is nuts. So I often have to go through and like approve comments that say normal stuff. But Galatia, I'm really sorry. I really truly think it must be, I don't know what it is. If you want to try to phrase what you're saying, but I swear to God, Henry, I are not
sorry
putting
about
you
that.
in timeout.
I didn't even put in timeout people. I typically, even the first two where's Jared's might get slipped through before I start having to ban people.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. If you've watched this stream before, you know sometimes people will come in and be, this channel sucks. I hate Michael. And I'll be like, interesting point. Let's talk about it. I mean, Chris Maverick got bumped too. So Galatia, I think it's just a YouTube thing. The chat has been shit for a few weeks now. Let's learn about Georgism.
This man is, you probably don't, but he was once considered one of the most influential Americans in history. One journalist called him, quote, the most famous American economic writer and, quote, author of a book which probably had a larger worldwide circulation than any other work on economics ever written. Well, more on this man and the book he wrote in a few seconds, but first, let's go to a random field.
Oh, hey. I'm Mr. Beat, and I'm just sitting here in a random field touching grass. The man you saw in that picture, his name was Henry George, and the book, which ended up selling millions, is called, make sure I get this right, Progress and Poverty, an inquiry into the cause of industrial depressions and of increase of wants with increase of wealth, the remedy.
An inquiry into the cause of industrial depressions of the... What a title. What a title.
Goodness, what a title.
I didn't mean to say what a title right after he said that. Sorry. Catching up on the chat. Yeah, for sure, guys. If you're getting any don't, that'd be mad at you.
Title YouTube. That is. A title so long
Atlas,
that I lost my train of thought. Where am I? Why am I sitting in a...
Oh yeah, and like the stream, guys. This is our last one for a while. Let's like the stream.
Random field. Oh, I remember. So I previously released a video about every major type of tax. Oh, there's that video now. You better hurry up and catch it before it's gone. It's gone.
This guy's a funny vibe.
Anyway, in that video, I said there is a tax called the single tax by the legendary Henry George. I'm going to make a future video about this, but I think the single tax on land is something worth reconsidering again. The more I learn about it, the more I like it. Well, this is that future video, okay? And actually, I should have been more specific. Henry George's single tax, the only tax.
Red Button says, you guys like Žižek? Dog, we just talked about him for like an hour. You can rewind and see. He's done some interesting stuff, so there you go. Let's see. I think YouTube has switched live chat to top chat. That's why people might not see their comments.
Believed should exist was a land value tax. To help me explain it, let's bring in an economist and fellow YouTuber, Jacob Clifford.
Thanks, Mr. Beat. I appreciate it. Thank you all very much. A land value tax is a tax on unimproved land. So just the land, not any buildings or improvements. And that's one of the reasons that makes
Before he goes into more details about a land value tax, let me tell you
It's a little chaotic. This is a little chaotic.
who this Henry George fellow was. After all, if you're watching this, you probably don't know anything about Henry George, even though he used to be kind of a big deal. Henry George was born in Philadelphia on September 2nd, 1839.
Shout it out in the chat if you were born in Philadelphia. Would love to see if we got some
And
Philadelphians
the
here.
second of 10 children. His dad, Richard George, published religious books and was a devout Episcopalian. Henry was, not so much. His dad forced him to go to the Episcopal Academy, but he hated it there, eventually dropping out. That didn't mean he didn't enjoy learning, though. He convinced his dad to hire him a tutor, and he still read a bunch, and even attended lectures at the Franklin Institute for fun. He was particularly into economics. He read Adam Smith and David Ricardo. By the time he was 15, Henry had realized his
Lexa said, Michael or Henry, is there a way to put the square in another corner? I feel like we are missing a lot.
Yeah, I'm shifting it around. Right now, it's just covering an empty graphic of the lower Appalachian region of the U.S., but I'm trying to be mindful of that because,
No worries. We got a lot of Philly people. I love it. John Lavelle said, you guys like Kierkegaard? Come on. And someone said, y'all like Drake?
were barely scraping by to feed the family, and he knew if he wanted to make some money, he must go out on his own. So he traveled the world as a cabin boy
God, I
on a
love boats.
ship, which means he basically took care of the captain's needs. He got paid $6 a month
He
instead of
took care of the captain's needs. Did anyone else have a bad thought there? Let me know in the chat.
$6 a month. Wow.
Let me know if in the chat, when he said he took care of the captain's needs, if any of you had a thought that maybe you're not proud of, but came up in your head. I just want to see if I'm the only sick fuck.
month. Instead of returning to Philadelphia after he got done working at sea, he went to San Francisco to first potentially seek gold, but after that was a bust, he worked as a typesetter, a weigher in a rice mill, and a farm laborer. The job he kept coming back to was typesetter, though. Unfortunately, Henry rarely made much money.
Thank you for letting me know that some of you guys are sickos as well. Hey, what's up, John? And Beatmaster, maybe not bad.
When he was 21, he met Annie Fox, an orphaned immigrant from Australia, and the two fell in love. Annie's uncle, who had been her guardian after her grandma died, didn't appreciate how poor Henry was, though, and didn't approve of the relationship, but they
Imagine a time in American history where like an Australian was an immigrant you couldn't marry.
secretly got married anyway.
Good old
Despite a
days.
happy marriage, the couple did struggle financially. Even though they couldn't afford to feed them, they had 4 kids together. Henry George Jr., who later became a United States representative and wrote a biography about his father, Richard, Jenny, and Anna. Following the birth of Richard, times were so tough for the Georges that Henry often had to beg for food. He later
Hey, thanks,
Henry
Sean.
recalled one story.
Quote, I walked along the street and made up my mind to get money from the first man whose appearance might indicate that he had it to give. I stopped a man, a stranger, and told him I wanted $5. He asked what I wanted it for. I told him that my wife was confined and that I had nothing to give her to eat. He gave me the money. If he had not, I think I was desperate enough to have killed him.
Whoa, he was going to kill a guy for $5. Life comes at you fast. Also, when he said his wife was confined, if someone came up to me and was like, my wife is confined, give me money, I would just run.
Began to turn for the better when Henry realized he wanted to be a writer.
I don't know, man. I think Schedule 35 does not. I think they ship to Canada.
In 18
Spriggan said, marrying an Australian, cringe. I can't even imagine. That was maybe my favorite comment of the day.
65.
By that time, he had steady printing work for the newly created San Francisco Times and began writing political editorials for local newspapers. Even though Henry never went to college and had no formal training, his editorials became quite popular, and due to this, he got promotions.
Yeah, Prairie Fire. I'm curious to learn more about this. I always like your take.
By the summer of 1867, he was the managing editor. In 1868, he left the Times to become managing editor of the bigger San Francisco Chronicle. Soon after that, he wrote his most influential article up to that point, called What the Railroad Will Bring Us. It was a response to the first transcontinental railroad being completed, and while most everybody was excited about it, Henry was a bit more cynical, writing that the railroad would only benefit some people. He argued the railroad would kill small towns and small businesses while propping up already great cities and already huge corporations.
That's what I did,
Keep
right?
in mind that this was in 1868. Decades before the populist movement.
Henry's popularity as
If anyone's ever had goofy history teacher vibes, it's this guy. And I'm not saying that in a critical way, but it's very clear that that's this guy.
a writer only
What's
grew
up,
after
Lincoln?
that. While he passionately called for future populist reforms like the secret ballots, public ownership of certain natural monopolies, and the
Oh, the Nothing Special Spy. The video with the Chile quip I mentioned is on neoliberalism. We have a video coming out on neoliberalism and religion, and we talk about Pinochet and Chile and some things. And I was like, I want to know what a Chilean thinks.
right to vote for women, he also thought free trade was way better than protectionism.
Very nice.
And he dabbled in politics, running for the California
Guys, he
State
did
Assembly,
Borat. He
but
did Borat.
was handily defeated by the, you guessed it, railroad industry. As Henry's editorials grew more popular, his family finally got out of poverty, but Henry wouldn't constantly stop thinking about poverty for the rest of his life.
It's real. You grow up poor, it never goes away.
Imagine using writing as a skill to escape poverty. What?
I know. Seriously. Oh.
He had two aha moments that are literally the reason why I am making a video about him and his ideas today.
The first happened in 1868 when he traveled to New York City. He was struck by the fact that those in poverty in such a great city with great wealth were apparently a lot worse off than those in poverty back home in California, a place with much less development. The second aha moment happened one day in 1870 when Henry sat on his horse overlooking San Francisco Bay after a dude told him that an seemingly unimportant acre of farmland nearby would sell for $1,000. Quote, like a flash it came over me that there was the reason of advancing poverty with advancing wealth. With the growth of population, land grows in value, and the men who work it must pay more for the privilege. Soon, Henry wrote his first analysis of what he called the land question. In 1871, Henry helped found the San Francisco Daily Evening Post, and he became its editor.
I'm actually not pausing a lot because I'm just watching this and learning things, but I'm like, should I be pausing more? Adrian said, damn, this stream is too sad for the new dad. Oh, damn. I'm sorry about that. We'll make it less sad. Let me guys know your thoughts on this as we're learning. Oh, again, I'm just learning about this. Thus far, Doesn't sound bad. Doesn't sound that bad.
He first became exposed to his land value tax idea. However, he accumulated lots of debt with the Evening Post, and his family ended up in dire poverty again. Fortunately for Henry,
Horrible
by
with money.
1876, he was now a minor celebrity and began giving speeches. He also still made
That's another sick thing back in the day. If anyone knew who you were, you could just travel around and give speeches. I would love that. I actually feel like that would be my ideal job. You know, traveling different cities. I just like talk about stuff. I'd have some prepared remarks, but you know, it'd be a lot like this. That'd be a sick job.
some money as a freelancer
If anyone wants to pay me to come to your city and just talk about stuff, I'd do it.
of sorts. On September 18th, 1877, he began to write his masterpiece book. The one I told you about earlier, you know, with the long title. Yeah, that's the one. We'll just call it Progress and Poverty from here on out. He finished the book in March 1879 and supposedly dropped to the floor and wept like a baby after completing it late one night.
That's like me after every time not going to say it. You can finish that though.
That sounds a bit dramatic, but maybe it happened. Anyway, by this time, he and his family were living in New York City, and that is where Progress and Poverty got published in 1880. And keep in mind, at this time, he was 40
I would love to come to Detroit.
years old. That's my age.
Well, the book didn't sell that well at first, but slowly but surely, thanks to word of mouth, it began to catch on, as did Henry
Stand-up philosopher. I like that terminology, James.
George's reputation. He promoted the book in Europe, spreading his solution for eradicating poverty and reducing extreme wealth inequality. Yep, the world was learning about his single tax on the value of land to completely replace the taxes the workers paid on their income and the taxes the owners paid on their capital. Little did
Are you getting this, Henry? Are you no pressure if you're not. I think I just missed a bit of what was happening.
I'm watching the video. He had his guest, his economics guest, pop in for a moment, and then
That one
pop out
tricked
for
me
a
out. So
bit.
sorry. So what is he describing now about how the system works?
He's talking about how George basically went around Europe and started promoting his book. They're about to get into the specifics of the economics of it in a moment.
Cool. I got distracted by that guy. Hey everyone, thanks for being here. By the way, it's Michael Burns here with producer Henry. Last stream for a little bit, guys. Last stream for a little bit. So if you're here, enjoy it. Please like the stream. As always, if you want to share it and stuff, it's cool. If you want to email me any new parent advice, hit up wisecracklive666@gmail.com. If you're interested in contributing to the Wisecrack Live lore doc, you can do that. And then, of course, join our Patreon. If you join our Patreon, you support our channel directly. You get less things like ads from Microsoft and other stuff. You get to be on our Discord. You get some videos. Things like that, you know. Oh, God, where is it?
Did he know?
I've written papers on Little Did He Know. I used to teach a class based on Little Did He Know.
I love that movie.
I mean, I once gave an entire seminar on Little Did He Know.
That he would literally ignite a gigantic social movement that was a major catalyst of not just the populist movement, but the entire progressive era.
Progress and Poverty.
Oh, real quick, if you jump in the lore doc, new rule, don't delete anyone else's work. If you think that something should be deleted, leave a comment or a suggestion. But let's be relatively democratic. It's been good thus far, and I really appreciate it. But let's just not move stuff around if you want. Well, it's not like delete anything unless it's fucked up.
Sold millions of copies and eventually made Henry George a household name. And apparently at the peak of the book's popularity,
Same,
and I
Tyler.
read this from many sources, Henry George was the third most famous man in the United States, right behind Thomas Edison and Mark Twain, of course.
Wow.
George's idea of a single land value tax became
this guy keeps-
ridiculously popular.
Actually, can I jump in here?
Well, of course, Mr. Clifford.
Okay, great. A land value tax is more efficient than other types of taxes. Taxes influence decisions. If we tax cigarettes, that's going to decrease smoking, which is good. But if you tax things that society actually wants, that's going to decrease their consumption and production. And that leads to something that economists call deadweight loss. Inefficient markets that are not producing the quantity that society actually wants.
Wait. Deadweight loss, infinite market, they're not producing.
Or needs. But since the supply of land is fixed, a land tax doesn't decrease its production. It doesn't cause deadweight loss. So sales taxes and excise taxes and even income taxes and corporate taxes can slow down the economy by discouraging production. But George argued that a single land tax would actually encourage and promote economic activity by discouraging people from hoarding land.
I like that idea, Chris, of getting it wikied up at some point. What's up, Kevin Simmons?
Just holding it for speculation. If you own huge tracts of unimproved, valuable land, a land tax will encourage you to either improve the land or sell it to somebody else that's going to improve the land by building houses or farms or factories or something else that'll generate enough money to pay for the tax. So in the end, all that land is used extremely efficiently, and the land tax means there's tax revenue for the government to provide public goods and services. And George.
So with this, and guys, I'm a little slow on the uptake sometimes, but so we're basically saying that if we have a tax on land in this way, that it de-incentivizes holding land as a speculative commodity without some sort of use that creates money. Example I could think of is like in the area I live in Los Angeles, there's a bunch of like plazas and businesses that got bought out by developers and have just sat there unused because they think that land is more valuable as a speculative commodity in the future than something that gets used now, and they're probably not taxed that much on it. That's what's happening, right?
Yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, awesome. I'm slightly brain dead, guys. It's been a weird week. We've had the holiday, getting ready for this kid, people on top of my roof clomping around. So okay, that sounds fair. I do wonder. Well, I have some other thoughts.
George argued that might be enough to provide universal basic income.
Well, thanks, Mr. Clifford.
Oh, UBI.
Hey, everyone, be sure to check out his YouTube channel. His videos were the main videos I had my students watch when I taught econ in the classroom.
Wait, you really forced your students to watch me?
It's true. Anyway, in Progress and Poverty, George argued that a single land value tax was needed because most of the wealth created by social and technological advances in an industrial free market economy was actually owned by landowners. And many of those landowners had monopolies over markets through something called economic rent. Economic rent is basically income gained from controlling a limited resource. So even though these landowners did nothing to improve the land value, they still got the profit. And remember, this was land, a natural resource. It was there already. These landowners didn't create it.
Thanks for that,
they
Jamal.
were just benefiting from something they did nothing to help create nor improve. In Progress and Poverty, George argued the game was rigged, and the only way to fix the game was not to tax the worker on what they earn, because that would disincentivize them from working, and not to tax the owner of capital through taxes on what they own.
I don't love that.
Yeah.
I don't love that. This is probably the first thing that's been said thus far. Where I'm like, I don't know if I love that, but I'm gonna keep watching and see what happens.
Yeah, Chris Maverick in the comments brought up that Georgism requires altruism, and yeah, I'm there on board with it. There's a lot of arguments that that Henry George had for this being the only tax, and I don't think it works in a vacuum as the only means of tax revenue.
Yeah. Oh, also, Philippe in the chat said, "Do not forget my salad in the car." Thank you. I've had a salad in the car for a day now. So for a week. So I have a week-old salad.
Or buy, because that would disincentivize them from investing.
To George, land was common property, and everyone was entitled to it. But that doesn't mean he was a Marxist, though. Oh, no. George was a Georgist.
George was fine with capitalism. He just wasn't a fan of rigged capitalism, in which the landowners were essentially parasites.
I mean, that's always the thing when people talk about like stuff like this, and I guess this relates to Chris's comment about altruism and stuff like that. But there's these folks sometimes will talk about things as in like, I'm against rigged capitalism. I'm against crony capitalism. I'm against blank capitalism, which seems to imply that there's some pure type of capitalism, and if we just tried, will be good. But the problem, in my humble opinion, is that the most pure form of capitalism is one of the most dehumanizing systems ever created, because the most pure form of capitalism is one that wholly values the creation of surplus capital. And the creation of surplus capital does not necessarily inherently or categorically benefit the lives of human beings. Like, pure capitalism is an economic system that like humans can perpetuate, but it's not a system that aims at the perpetuation and benefiting of human lives, at least in my humble opinion.
Because he thought he was entitled to the land, many of George's
John Stewart type beat. I am Bricks. Great comment. I wish I could give you points for
followers hesitated to even call a land value tax a tax. They preferred to call it basically rent paid to society in exchange for getting to exclusively.
But that's fun though. I mean, the idea that like if you're going to use land for something, you're paying rent. I mean, I like that framing. I do like that framing. And I think that within the confines of the fact that like we live in a contemporary capital situation, you know, if it was a thing in, I don't know, the city I live in, where developers that own large tracts of land would have to pay a tax that would then go directly in towards things like UBI, education, public services, like, hey, that's not bad. So, you know,
use the land for whatever they wanted, while also
yeah, John Ford, I'm a pretty solid pickety head.
compensating for the fact that others couldn't use it. By the way, George's followers soon became known as Georgists, and George's whole economic ideology became known as Georgism.
Anyway, George's book and ideas became so popular that governments around the world got rid of all taxes. And that's why today we only have a land use tax. And we all lived happily ever after. The end.
If anyone knows the comedian Connor O'Malley, this guy has a really similar like body structure and mannerism to Connor O'Malley. Hey, Carlos, glad you made it.
Except no. No, not at all. What I just said, I was just making that up.
I really like this guy. So Jamal says it's already done in Taiwan.
People who owned land
And this may be a bit surprising to you.
didn't like the idea of a land value
What?
tax. Go figure, huh? Many people like the fact that they could just let land sit there and it would automatically go up in value.
In 1886, Henry
I mean, that's like the whole, I mean, at least in America and all the countries in the West, that's like the whole economy right now. It's just like real estate speculation. Like that.
gave politics an old try when he was recruited by the United Labor Party to run for mayor of New York City.
However, he was up against the machine, aka the establishment. Okay, Tammany Hall, the powerful political organization that essentially controlled New York politics. Tammany Hall feared that if George won the election, politics in the city might be reorganized along class lines instead of ethnic lines.
You know what's cool about his name? I just realized it works either way. Henry George Henry. Both of his names are first name, last names. That's kind of fun. And I know that's what you come here for: deep and thoughtful analysis from a gentleman with a PhD.
Tammany got its power. Tammany Hall called George's supporters, quote, anarchists, nihilists, communists, and socialists. Well, George lost the election, but he surprised many with a strong second-place finish.
Not only that, but there is some evidence that voter fraud may have been involved. Just saying.
His supporters were not even allowed to oversee the ballot
Yeah, see,
count.
Burns Michael sounds weird.
Regardless, he did finish
Sounds like a
ahead of
crime.
an obscure dude by the name of Theodore Roosevelt. And despite losing the election for the rest of his life, George's popularity only continued to grow. In 1897, he ran for mayor of New York City again. But just 4 days before the election, he suffered a fatal stroke that shocked the nation. His death made international headlines, and possibly as many as 200,000 people showed up to view his body. At the time of his death, Henry...
Yeah, Lex, a good point. No Nelson today. Nelson, if you watch this as VOD, you know that you're being thought of fondly and kindly.
George was the most well-known economist around, and Georgism was arguably at its peak.
And yet, I only learned about George and Georgism like 3 years ago.
And as I researched for this video, I noticed that the man and his land value tax idea are more obscure than goat cheese on pizza.
Why is that? Why did Georgism go out of style?
Why did Georgism go out of style, huh?
Well, first of all,
That clip where he had his voice slowed down was my favorite part of this video. Him just walking out the Georgism go out of style. I mean, I'll say this, thus far, truly learning about this live, is that within the framework of policies that operate under like liberal capitalism and modify that system, this is like solid. Like if you were going to tell me that this could be a thing that was happening in my city, I'd be like, yeah. As an overarching political ideology, I don't know if it's my cup of tea, but I mean, honestly, like I've heard a lot worse, you know?
Yeah, like the holistic ideology of Georgism, I'm not sure on, but the concept of a land value tax seems pretty solid, and like it could work in conjunction with other systems of taxation.
Yeah. Alex said, I can't believe I didn't know any of this. Like they just disappeared this man. Alex, great comment. Some real great comments today. Yeah, we're not going to get to 666 viewers, but we get 666 likes maybe. So like stream if you haven't already. I'm sad to go on leave without bringing the powerful energy of the Dark Lord into my child's home.
well, in his later years, George was too much of a purist. He often refused to compromise on his ideals with other progressive reformers. Other progressive reformers didn't like how he was still okay with almost all capital existing, and how he rejected a strong role for government. They didn't like his opposition to public ownership of certain types of infrastructure, his support of free trade, and him being a gradualist versus trying to start a radical revolution. Overall, he frustrated fellow progressive reformers by not shutting up about a land value tax, thinking that was the only thing that could solve everybody's problems.
But of course, there were also the landowners and the speculators.
Even today,
When he turns to the camera, Thormac says if we get 666 likes, Michael names his baby Baphomet. What the fuck? Yeah, guys, you're not getting pre-dad dome. So I'm real sorry. I'm real sorry you're not getting pre-dad dome.
Please stop saying that phrase.
I'm just reading the chat. I'm just reading the chat, guys.
much wealth is
You did
earned
this.
through owning land.
I'm just a puppet.
And a
You
land
guys are
value tax
on the strings.
threatens that. But more importantly, land speculators have tremendous power over the government and the media, and they would
do.
simply not get to make money anymore with a land value tax.
It really do
now,
be like
there
that.
are other reasons why Georgism faded out in the 1900s. World War I really hurt its momentum, for starters. Another big thing that is probably not brought up enough by Georgists is that cars got way more popular during the century so that people could more easily travel longer distances to get to their land. Simply put, being able to get around more easily increased the amount of land available. See all this urban sprawl? That's because of cheaper land out on the fringes of metropolitan areas. And that's a big reason why Georgism became somewhat obsolete. Landowners have also been somewhat successful at other reforms to help the poor, like welfare, which, wouldn't you know it, also helps them out because this also helps their land value go up.
But here I am on land
He just keeps ripping up.
in 2022, and there's been a renewed interest in Henry George and Georgism, especially with the younger folks online. What's up
Where's a Rick and Morty thing?
with
Why?
that?
Well, despite urban sprawl continuing to be a thing, land prices keep...
You guys will only ever get Dad Dome. You're never gonna get pre-Dad Dome. You're never gonna get it. You don't deserve it. I thought you might deserve it. You don't.
rising sharply to a point now where many young folks are priced out, stuck as renters, maybe.
Oh, in the chat, Beatmaster Rado, could you land tax the internet? And Jamal Thomas tax IP addresses. Interesting.
Forever.
Because that is an important thing, that digital space is in many ways becoming as valuable as physical space.
The dream of owning a home to build up wealth is slowly fading away. So young folks are like, screw it. Let's revisit this land value tax idea again.
You might be thinking, well, Mr. Beat, if a land value tax is so great, why isn't there any place in the world that does it? And my response is, there are places in the world where they do it.
It's not
Every time he like bends over and does this little waddle, this guy rips.
what Henry George envisioned, but variations of a land value tax exist around the world in places like Estonia, Singapore, Denmark, Taiwan, and even in parts of the
Some fun countries.
United States. However, for a land value tax to truly be effective, it must be widespread. Otherwise, those not having to pay a land value tax will have an even bigger advantage.
And if a land value tax was ever widely implemented, it likely just couldn't happen overnight.
It would be incredibly unfair in the short term to property owners who paid a lot for their land, as many of them would likely see their land lose its value over time with a land value tax.
What's fascinating to me is
Hey, thanks for driving to balance. Have a good one.
that Georgism politically isn't left wing or right wing. It's actually a good balance that unites liberty and equality. The more I learn about it, the more impressed I am with it, which is why it will never happen.
This guy just, he's back in the grass. He's pulling the grass up. He's just picking grass. Touching it. Wow. I mean, my first time learning. Oh, he gets to put a sponsor at the very end.
Self-help app to help you build better habits and achieve your goals.
The fabulous.
How long does that read?
Start building.
Wow, guys, Mr. Beat gets to do his ad at the very end. This is what I'm obsessed with now. That was pretty interesting. I'm curious what everyone's thoughts are about Georgism. And thanks again, guys, to Jamal for getting us to talk about this, and we can talk about it more in the future as well. I mean, yeah, I guess my simple takeaway is that it sounds like an interesting middle ground type policy that's non-radical while still being you can see it doing a lot of stuff within the system of neoliberal capitalism. The issue he brings at the end, which seems like it would be really hard, is and it's what people talk about. I even talk to people are leftish leaning, but when they think about things like this, there's always the question of well, is my property going to lose value? Because in America, at least, people put their whole lives into owning property as their way to establish wealth for generations and generations. So you could imagine if someone in a major city paid $1 million for a relatively small house, and overnight the value goes away, but then you still, I guess, could you redo your mortgage or something? I don't know about things like that.
Yeah, one of the other articles I found on it, it was actually a pretty long and thorough study of, apparently in Pennsylvania they had implemented a policy for a while. One of the issues, though, is just keeping it in the public eye or the political conversation. It's not the highest priority to the everyday citizen. So it was kind of easy to kind of get it turned back off in local elections and stuff, because it's not as high priority as some of the culture war stuff or some of the more immediate municipal projects and such.
Yeah, I'm glad that I know about it. Jamal says there are proposals for finding ways around. One example is community land trust. Interesting. Yeah, also, if anyone has any questions on this, I bet Jamal would answer them in the chat. Jamal Thomas, sorry if I signed you up for something you don't want. But so if anyone has questions in the chat, you could ask Jamal. I think Jamal is also on Discord. So if anyone had further questions about this, again, Jamal, I'm just signing you up as our local expert on this. AJ said Mr. Beat is better than Mr. Beast. For sure. Oh my God, I was in the grocery store yesterday And in this like random aisle, they have like Mr. Beast quinoa crunch chocolate bars. And I'll tell you this, guys. If I'm ever branded on a chocolate bar that you see in a grocery store, put a bullet in my fucking head, okay? Take me out. I don't want to live if that's the case. I want to be quiet as I say this because, I don't want the mother of the child I'm about to have hear me in here talking about putting a bullet in my fucking head. But I could never do it. And I don't want to be on a chocolate bar. Never put me on one. So yeah, that's what I think about Mr. in relationship to Mr. Beat. Lexa, in terms of how Mr. Beast got so much money, we kind of have a video about but there you go. I can't say anything louder. You can turn up the volume if you need to. But yeah. Oh, good. I like Jamal asking questions in there. Yeah, what would be a good product though? If we were going to make like a Wisecrack branded product with my face on it, guys, I'm curious in the chat, what would be the product? I'm trying to think. You know what I would like? I really like beverages a lot. Maybe some sort of like sparkling beverage, like a special flavor of a sparkling water, or a sparkling water that maybe had some like vitamins or something in it, or was like probiotic or something like that. I don't know. Chris Maverick says I activated his Alexa. Nihilistic chocolate. Ooh, I like underwear. Someone says Burns boxers. Yeah. I mean, mushroom chocolate is about as close as I've gotten. Smudge just said drugs. I would love a Fender thing. I would love that very much. Oh, hats. A dead car. I think that might be it. DT says a hair implant. It would be the worst hair implant ever. Yeah, I do like hats. Pregnancy test. Co-branded dog collar. Kombucha. Sparkling psilocybin soda. That'd be pretty cool. Wisecrack's modern political philosophy. I like hats a lot. Wisecrackers. I like chicken. Body pillow. Would it be shaped like me? Someone said burn suppository. Pavel, we literally might be doing a brand deal with a company that does fucking constipation medicine. I got a message about it yesterday. Ooh, Burns hot sauce, burn sauce. I was like, yeah, you know what? I'll do a constipation meds ad. I get constipated sometimes. And if they're gonna send me some stuff I can take, why not? Steve Smith said, how about crack? Maybe. Inflatable Jerry Garcia dummy. Burns boxers or Kirka garments. Wow, Crocs and socks. And speaking of Crocs and socks, I'm crocked up. I don't have socks on with today, but I love Crocs and socks. I love going block to block in Crocs and socks. Thai sausage and math. Houseplants hat, like a Wisecrack hat. Yeah, I want us to make new hats. I had a couple Wisecrack hats. I got kind of old and worn out, and we're in a little bit of someone said a masterworks invest in. Yeah, it's gonna be a business where you can co-own some of my old philosophy books, and when I sell them at a swap meet, you get a part of the shares. So there you go. Burns incense. How would the THC be suspended in the soda? I have no idea. The stream has officially gone off. Does this mean we're going long? Alexa, this is life advice for Alexa. Don't ask if we're going long. Just let it happen. Because I wasn't even paying attention to that. Can you stay on a few more minutes, Henry, or do you have a hard out?
I can stay on, yeah.
All right. I will say, so we got an ad read for today from Thomas. I'm just going to read it. This is an email I got. It says, we at I Can't Book Packaging have an exciting opportunity for you. We are selling a book, and the author said her PhD in philosophy helped inform her writing of this book. Because of this overlap in interest, we thought it might appeal to the growing audience, raw dome soon, am I right, of your channel. We would like you to read the ad described below. So I got an ad right here, okay? For us, product is a critique of oatmeal raisin. Here's some sample copy. Just last week, I made dinner for my friends. It says, please include your personal friends' names here. For my friends, Justin and Nick. I had a bottle of Merlot that did not go over as well as I would have thought. Since then, I read a book that helped me understand the cultural impact of Sideways on people who liked wine tasting. This book was a critique of oatmeal raisin by I Can't Publishing. It taught me that good food can't be identified simply by reasoning about how it tastes, looks, and feels. Like the oatmeal raisin cookie that tastes good, but reminds the eater of a time they were disappointed, expecting a chocolatey treat. I know how you can be disappointed by these ad reads and our videos, but know that we at Wisecrack, and I mean I can't, appreciate you taking a minute to listen. If you read this one in the streams, attribute it to occasional viewer Crazy Tom, and please don't say the email. Okay, here's Tom's email. I kid. Oatmeal cookies are a good metaphor for things like that, you know? You think it's going to be one thing, but it's another thing. Ooh, urinators at Grateful Burns, Dead Hats, Wisecrack wipes. I like that. Ganja storage, heartburns meds. Yeah, maybe like what are those drugs that help you not have heart attacks? Statins. Maybe I need some statins. Okay, guys. Well, I mean, I guess we're going to start wrapping up. If anyone wants to do a What Are You round, we can. What Are You is the thing where people share stuff they're watching, listening to, reading, eating, games they're playing, books they're reading, all sorts of stuff. So if anyone has What Are Yous, you can share them. Do you have any What Are Yous, Henry? Stuff you've been enjoying recently?
I'm about to jump into I'm a Virgo, the Boots Riley series.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
up on
I really wanna
Amazon
watch
now. Aside from that, when not editing, I've been really just going hard on Street Fighter 6.
Fuck yeah. It sounds really fun. Yeah, I mean, we already talked about the new indie movie, which I just thought was fun. I mentioned it before, but if you haven't seen it yet, I personally liked Asteroid City. Go ahead, Henry.
Yeah, I enjoyed Asteroid City as well. It's probably up there with Grand Budapest Hotel as one of my favorite Wes Anderson movies.
Yeah, I like that. Wisecrack antidepressants, that would make sense. Or maybe maybe Wisecrack Live ADHD meds or something like that. They'll enjoy the stream more. People are saying Dark. I loved Dark. Callie, I loved Dark so much. And Callie, thank you again for your parenting advice email. I feel like I'm not going to read all the parenting advice emails here because, you know, they felt kind of personal. And I just want to say that I appreciate all of those. Let's see. People are playing some games. Someone's watching Nimona, Bones and All, Love Island, the new Killer Mike album. I'm a Virgo, Diablo 4, Neuromancer. That's a book. Street Fighter again. Alexa's watching, and Just Like That season 2. That show is so crazy, Alexa. I've been watching it, but that's a crazy show. Christ and Culture. Ooh, Criterion Channel. Bernstein Salad. Yeah. The Will to Change by Bell Hooks. That's great. Austin Public Broadcasting. Let's
Awesome.
go.
Yeah, Lux and I are on episode 4 of our series. We're going pretty strong. Also, shout out to Bree, our producer. She keeps it all together. But yeah, we're 4 episodes in. If you have the Austin Public app, 10:30 on Mondays.
Hell yeah. Someone brought up Thread. Oh yeah, I'm on Threads. Come find me on Threads, guys. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm watching. I mean, I'm watching Secret Invasion, but like,
yeah, how's that going for you?
What are we doing, guys? It's trying to do a thing, and I can see how the thing could be good, but I really just feel like, what are we doing? And now we're gonna create some shit now where you're gonna try to tell like that some characters that have been active in the MCU were Skrulls all along, and we know that's just retconning because we know that those characters weren't Skrulls when the people, I don't know. I can't stop watching it. Maybe it'll land someplace. There's definitely scenes where when it's like Samuel L. Jackson with what's the Australian guy's name? The actor who plays Telos. Fuck, why am I forgetting his name? Like a famous actor. Ben Mendelsohn, yeah. Like watching Sam Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn cook, great. Watching Sam Jackson and Olivia Colman cook, great. These are really good actors. I like watching them cook. Kingsley, Ben, Adair is pretty solid as well, but I don't know, guys. It's just not doing it for me, and I'm going to keep watching it. Beatmaster brought up the Righteous Gemstones. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 But you know, guys, I'm just like, I can't stop watching Marvel stuff. Maybe that's one thing that kid will help. You know, maybe like when you have a kid, I imagine you have less time, so you got to make decisions about what you consume. Oh, For All Mankind is awesome. Zoe brings that up. You know, I shouldn't say this, but Kelly from that show is a great friend of mine. The actor's name is Cynthia Wu, but great friend of mine. I love that show, so definitely check that one out. I don't know. I guess we're gonna wrap up. So we'll see what happens, guys. If this kid is on time, we might be streaming again. Mid-August or so. If the kid's late, a little later, I want to make sure I have a solid chunk of time where I'm getting just to get used to her. Chris Maverick says Secret Invasion feels like it needs more of a budget to be what it wants to be. Yeah, I think it'd be better as a movie. But yeah, so we'll be back soonish. Videos are going to keep going as normal. So when I'm on leave, we already pre-filmed a bunch of stuff. You'll be able to tell which ones we pre-filmed. Our friend Helen Flourish is doing some hosting as well. So she'll be on the channel. I'm still going to be like working until this kid comes out. So, be around helping on stuff. But when we're not doing Wisecrack Live, if you still want to talk, and I don't want to like monetize you talking to people. What I'm about to say makes me feel a little icky, but I'm just going to say it. If you join our Patreon, a lot of folks from this community are there. We have a Wisecrack Live channel. We can keep some of that energy going. But again, I don't want to say to people like, oh, you have to like pay $5 to do that. Dominic says, why didn't you pre-record any live streams? That'd be a fun idea. If you missed this, you can always go watch old live streams on VOD and leave angry comments. But keep supporting the channel, keep supporting what we're doing. And then we will start teasing the stream when it comes back. And note that on our end, we want to put some effort into it, do some cool stuff. So, but I'm truly going to, I like all the parts of work. The thing I'm going to miss the most on leave is this. And it feels sick saying like, I'm going to miss work, Capitalism has two fingers in my...
It's hangout time with our parasocial friends.
It is. It's a good parasocial hangout time. So thanks again. In the meantime, Wisecrack Live 666. Henry is on social media. I'm on social. You can find us there. I'm going to go eat lunch and wait to have a kid. So in the meantime, We'll see you guys soon. Everyone give some love to Henry in the chat on the way out. Sean says, sell out, bro, for money. Oh, I hope I will. And guys, let's just all commit to this. When we come back, we got to get 666 on the first stream, or else I was going to say something. You could finish what I was going to say. So you can finish this one in the chat. If we don't get 666 on our first stream back, I'm going to blank myself. Who knows what I was thinking? Who knows? You can guess in the chat if you want. And please like the stream on the way out if you haven't. But I guess that's it. So show some love to Henry, show some love to yourselves, and we'll see you guys very soon. Goodbye.
Thanks for joining us, y'all. Y'all have a good afternoon.